Okay, this is video lesson 8.05, properties of rhombus and the square. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the rhombus. Again, a rhombus is a type of parallelogram, so the first 5 properties are exactly the same as the parallelogram. Opposite sides are parallel, opposite sides are congruent. Now in parentheses, I'm going to write all equal. In a rhombus, all 4 sides are congruent. Opposite angles are congruent. Consecutive angles are supplementary. Diagonals bisect each other. Okay, so those are the first 5. Now, diagonals bisect each angle. That's a property we haven't seen before. So each angle is bisected in a rhombus. So basically, whatever that angle A measures, this has to be congruent to this one. It's cut in half. Same thing over here. Whatever that angle B measures, this angle has to be congruent to this one. Same here. These would obviously be the same as angle A, and these would be the same as angle B because opposite angles are congruent to begin with. And diagonals are perpendicular. That's also a property we haven't seen before. Diagonals are perpendicular. Since diagonals are perpendicular, they make right angles here at the center where they intersect. Again, we know diagonals bisect each other, so this would be congruent to this, and this one would be congruent to this one. Okay, diagonals are not congruent in a rhombus, so that's why this segment here is congruent to this one, and the other 2 segments are all congruent, but they're not all congruent like the rectangle, so it's a little bit different. Okay, so that's the rhombus. In a square, again, first 5 are exactly the same as the parallelogram. Opposite sides are parallel, opposite sides congruent, and in parentheses, I'm going to write all equal. All sides are congruent in a square. Opposite angles are congruent, yes, and in parentheses, all equal 90 degrees. In a square, just like the rectangle, all angles at every corner will be 90, 90, 90, 90. Consecutive angles are supplementary, diagonals bisect each other, and diagonals are congruent here. So in here, this piece is congruent to this piece, and it's also congruent to this piece, and it's also congruent to this piece. Diagonals bisect each angle. So since that's a 90-degree angle here at D, C, B, and A, when you have diagonals drawn, you're basically cutting each angle in half, which would make each angle 45 degrees and 45 degrees at each corner. And then our last property of the square is diagonals are perpendicular. So again, here at where the diagonals intersect, we have right angle, right angle, right angle, right angle. So we have basically 4 right triangles in there. So now, if you notice, the square is basically combining the properties of the rectangle and the rhombus. So it's like if the rectangle and the rhombus had a baby, it would be a square. Okay, so let's do some questions here. Read carefully what shape they're telling you it is, because a square and a rhombus are not exactly the same thing. A square has one extra property that a rhombus does not. Okay, so just be careful, read carefully. So let's try number 1. ABCD is a rhombus. If the perimeter of ABCD is 68 and BD is 16, then how much is AC? So here, they're giving you BD, which is the whole diagonal. It's 16. So I'm going to go ahead and split that into 8 and 8. And now they gave you the whole perimeter, so they already added up all the outside sides. So we're going to divide that by 68 by 4. because remember, all sides are congruent in a rhombus, so 68 divided by 4 is 17. So each side equals 17, 17, 17, 17. Now, if they want to know AC, I'm going to zoom in here. Remember, diagonals are perpendicular. So if they want to know AC, I'm going to focus on first finding this little piece there. And what type of triangle is this? A right triangle, where I can use the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to do 8 squared plus x squared equals 17 squared. When we solve this, we're going to get x squared equals 225, but then the square root of that would be 15. So x is 15. So if x is 15, that would make AC equal to 30, because we see that 15 is only half of it. AC would be the whole thing, and they want to know the whole diagonal. So that's how you would solve that one. Number 2, ABCD is a square if angle DBC. So now if you trace that angle DBC, that's actually that angle there. That angle is x squared minus 4x. Find x. Now remember, in a square, all angles are bisected. And if we knew this was 90, then we already know this one has to equal 45, and then we can solve it. It's a quadratic equation, so we're going to set it equal to 0. And then we're going to have to factor. So what two numbers multiply to negative 45 but add up to a negative 4, negative 9, and positive 5. So here x equals 9, here x equals negative 5. So which answer makes more sense? The 9. So x is equal to 9. Number 3, we're going to be using this rhombus here. If angle BAF, so that means this angle in here, is 28 degrees, then ACD is how much? The same thing, because they're actually alternate interior. If angle AFB is, so this one in here is 16x plus 6, then how much is x? Again, in a rhombus, diagonals are perpendicular, so you take that and set it equal to 90, because it makes perpendicular lines make right angles. So when we solve that, we get that 90 minus 6, divide that by 16, so we get x equals 5.25. Part C, if angle, let me erase this, if angle BFC, that's this angle in here, is 120 minus 4x, how much is x? Same thing, diagonals are perpendicular, so we're going to set that equal to 90 degrees. So we'll do 90 minus 120. Divide that by negative 4. And we get x equals 7.5. Okay, so now next question, angle BAC. BAC is this one here. And then ACD is this one here. If you can see, those are alternate interior. So for this one, we would set them equal to each other and solve for x that way. I'm not going to solve that one just because this video is getting long. Question E, DCB, this whole angle here is x squared minus 6. And angle DAC, half of that angle A is 5x plus 9. Now, these are not equal. If you notice, angle A, it's only half of it, and over here, BCD is the whole thing. So again, this one we would have to, in order to set them equal to each other, we would have to multiply the 5x plus 9 by 2, distribute, and then bring everything over. Because it's a quadratic, we want to have it set it equal to 0, then you factor and you go from there. Number 4 here, square PQRS. SR is x squared minus 2x. QR is 4x minus 5. Find x, SR, and QR. So again, this is a square, all sides are equal, so you set them equal to each other. Solve for x and then plug it in because they want to know both sides. Again, this is a quadratic, bring everything over so that it's equal to 0, factor, and then you plug it in to find the pieces they want you to find. Okay, this was lesson 805, properties of a rhombus and a square. You may now move on to assignment 8.05 on your Google Classroom.